Yes.
Yes, yes. Back,
Episode number 2.
back and better, baby. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
How
And
do you like that chair right now?
you know me, I'm a lean back aficionado, so I like to be relaxed. And we're going super cozy today. You guys can't see on the camera, but we're living room vibes
Hmm.
right now. You know,
Yeah,
very
we got a few
comfortable.
things switched up, right? Like,
Yes,
we
yes.
got the
Let us.
plants in the shot. These are all real plants, by the way.
Yeah, because Adam doesn't want to do anything halfway.
No, no.
It's got to be real plants.
Yeah. And
You
we
know,
we got a little carpet vibe going on too.
yeah.
You know.
It feels good. I'm like opening up my toes in my socks.
Yeah,
It's
it's
really
like a little
nice.
bit of a living room vibe.
Yeah, yeah,
Comfortable.
yeah.
Yeah.
Feel like we
Um,
should get some tea or something. Some a warm beverage
hmm.
next time. Next time.
Next time.
Are you a tea guy? You do more like
I don't
decaf.
mind a tea. I don't mind like an herbal tea. It's nice. But I'm more of a coffee guy. Yeah,
Coffee,
I
huh?
actually drink a little too much, I think.
When did you start? Was that uni or were you kind of like even high school days had
It
that?
was like end of high school.
Oh yeah. So that it was probably around like when workload increased a little bit. Cause like
Okay, catch this.
okay,
I'll give you a little backstory.
okay.
I kind of figured something out later in life
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense. You know, when after you've gone through a period of life and you can now kind of connect the dots.
Mm-hmm.
So my daughter, she's now like she's 2.5, and she has some like behavioral issues.
Mm-hmm.
She's a great girl, like I love her to death, but um, she has trouble sleeping and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of trouble soothing at night, like when she wakes up in the middle of the night.
Yeah. How old's your daughter?
So she was born in April. So
April.
yeah,
Oh, we're
yeah, April 8th.
it's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, yeah.
We're the Aries. Anyways,
Yes.
sorry.
So anyways, we tried, the sleep training.
Mm-hmm.
We tried a bunch of things to get her to sleep better because we all know sleep is very important, right?
Crucial.
And my son, who's 4.5, he sleeps like a champ. Like it
Mm.
took us about 2 weeks of sleep training, and then
Yeah, and he
he
was on
was
it.
he was gravy,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? 2 weeks, and then he sleeps in his own bed. He's been sleeping in his own bed since he was 6 months old.
Wow.
Since from crib to now toddler bed,
Mhm.
and he'll sleep like 12 hours a night.
Oh wow.
Smart as a whip,
Mhm.
thinker. He's a thinker.
Yeah.
So back to my daughter. So we went to the pediatrician, and the pediatrician is like, well, maybe you need to talk to this behavioral therapist that specializes in families who deal with this.
Mhm.
So we booked an appointment, virtual. Um, Shout out to Ani, that's her name.
Mhm.
I think she's out
Shout
of
out.
Ottawa. Yeah. So she is neurodivergent, okay, which
Mhm.
neurodivergent is basically um someone who doesn't their brain doesn't work like a typical person.
Mm.
So like ADHD, dyslexia.
So autistic.
It's not necessarily
Did I just
autism,
okay.
right? It's more I don't even know if it would be on the spectrum, but um anyways,
I feel like I just this I feel like I just discontinued something else. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I mean
Yeah.
that's a longer discussion as
Yeah.
well. But so the interesting
Mhm.
thing is she started to ask us questions about our upbringing, and
Mhm.
not upbringing, but our childhood and how our brains work.
Right.
And basically, she, without diagnosing me, because you can't get diagnosed that easily,
Yeah.
you have to go to a psychiatrist, and you have to go through this
Tests and
process,
yeah.
right? But she's basically like, there's a high chance that I have ADHD,
Oh wow.
and I've gone through my whole life,
Mhm.
gotten to the point where I'm at, just compensating,
Mhm.
right? So I just found that to be really interesting. And then how she describes it is, people who have ADHD, they have low dopamine.
Mhm.
So it's very common for people that deal with ADHD to become addicted to things.
Mm.
And caffeine is a very common thing because it's so um
Readily accessible.
accessible, but it's also not kind of frowned upon.
It's like
It's accepted.
it's like a drug that
It's
the world, like alcohol, it's become
yes,
socially acceptable. But
exactly.
if you looked at the actual like pitfalls of what this does to your body, it's pretty like, and same thing with smoking back in the day.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of mental um uh things that we've learned about, like cognitively, that before people just used to write off. Like when soldiers would come back from war, we'd just be like, oh, they're crazy. Then we found out PTSD was a thing. And even like if somebody is going through a depression or something, it's just like, oh, we're just gonna write this off. So it's that same sort of like
Yeah, I
we
think
learn
people are
more.
becoming a lot more aware and
Yes.
understanding of things,
Yeah.
right? So back to my point is I basically got addicted to caffeine
Mhm.
from the time I started drinking coffee, and without realizing it, someone I'm an undiagnosed ADHD, someone who has ADHD,
Mhm.
and basically if I drink a coffee and I get a hit of caffeine, it just mellows me out.
It brings you. It's like it brings you back down to like
It's really
homeostasis. Yeah,
it's different from the typical person what they feel when they
like
have
a
caffeine.
like an
Yeah.
upper. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like
I don't know if it brings me down. It just kind of mellows me out.
yeah.
I don't understand the complete science behind it, but
Mhm.
yeah. So that's why I love coffee.
There you go.
I'm trying not to drink as much of it, and
Mhm.
I try not to like I cut it off at around noon.
Mhm.
Like
Well, you do decaf. You do decaf
right
too,
now
so
I'm having a
yeah.
decaf right now.
So yeah,
So
I'd say you. I didn't know too much of the habits before. Like as we hang out more, I just learn more.
mhm.
Like our first workout
Yeah, yeah.
was this week,
We
or
had two. We had two,
last,
right?
yeah,
We had Sunday. We did a workout on Sunday,
yeah.
and then we did a workout um Tuesday.
Tuesday. I know how I felt about him. How did you feel?
It felt good.
Yeah.
I think there are pros and cons to working out with somebody,
Yeah.
right? I think you have to be on the same page, kind of at
Mhm.
the same level. You have to also the programming, you probably have to be
Mhm.
on the same program,
Mhm.
right? For it to work out consistently.
Yes. Like goals being somewhat the same or within the same wheelhouse, um, I think is a little bit less determining if the programs, like let's say you have a leg day and one person is like, because we're on the same, we could talk about this a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
We're kind of on the same sort of journey. We're gonna be showcasing it to you guys as well, for the
Yeah.
month of
We're gonna
December.
start December
Yeah.
1st.
We're not gonna give away too much with that
Yeah.
because we're still ironing out the details. And we also want it to be more of a surprise.
Mhm.
But um in that, our goals are somewhat similar. It's like a little bit of body recomp. One's more focused on building up, and then other person's work focused on
Leaning.
leaning down.
Mhm.
But the thing I wanted to mention about our workout was, and we can kind of go into the pros and cons. I think one of the big pros is just like with that person there, you kind of like, I think you're not thinking as much about like let's say you're not feeling the most, like you didn't get the best sleep that night, or um might have been thinking about something else, you know?
You're talking about the excuses.
Yeah. Excuses, or even just like other things in your day, like, "Oh, I gotta finish
Oh, I
this
see
and
what
then
you're
get to
saying.
that."
You're more in the moment,
Present,
present
present,
with your
100%,
workout.
100%. Because now it's like, and I think this is also an, like, accountability piece that you get with coaching. It's like, oh, I'm now accountable.
Mhm.
So like I remember a time where you introduced the myo sets to me,
Yeah, yeah.
and it was like, all right, we're gonna go 10 seconds rest and then 3 extra reps once you reach failure,
Yeah.
essentially. And then it's like when we each had our turn, it was like, how much reps is that? You know what I mean? Like just double checking, be like, nah, nah, it was three, it was three.
Yeah.
All right, all right. You look a little fresh. Go back. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Right
so we're
back into
pushing
it.
each other.
Yeah, I think for that it's good, but that can also
Dude, my
be
quads. were on fire.
Adam was feeling it. Adam was feeling it.
So okay, listen to this. So I went home. We worked out in the morning, 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Right?
Loved it, by the way.
Yeah.
No, 5 a.m. club, best club. We're going to talk about this another time. The
Well,
people, yeah.
yeah. So I come home and my wife messaging me. She's like, "Oh, Addie's up." So I had to go and get her.
Mhm,
And then my son woke up too. And because I was holding my daughter, my son's like, "Pick me up.
mhm.
Pick me up, please, daddy."
Yeah.
So, so my
That's all
quads
you
are on
gotta do. Yeah,
fire.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm
And
holding
this is
both of
like
them.
right when you get through the door.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. By the way,
You didn't even get
leaving
to eat. You didn't get to
no,
like.
leaving the gym, I'm trying to, when there's a car and they stop for you, and
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
trying to
yeah,
cross the road,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
the parking lot to get to my car,
yeah.
and I just try to do a little jog, and then my quad seized up.
It was like, what do you think just happened? We're doing enough just to keep you on your feet right now. You
Exactly.
know. Yeah.
So I'm at home. Have two of my kids. My son, he's a tall kid,
Yeah.
but he's very light. Like
Right.
he's maybe 30, 34 pounds, maybe.
That's Caleb, right?
Caleb, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then my daughter, she's the exact opposite. She's short, but
Mm.
she's all muscle.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. That's the
she's like,
athlete, low key,
yeah,
right?
she's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
28 pounds,
yeah.
and she's 2 years younger.
Dance,
So I'm
dance.
holding both of them, and that's what, 56, almost 60 pounds, whatever. And I'm walking down the stairs, and I feel my both of my quads seizing up.
That's a tough trek anyway. Like that's like basically like a farmer's walk, but like elevated
Yeah.
through elevation
Mhm.
as well.
Oh, we should do the CN Tower walk one day
Oh, I'd
with
love that.
a vest.
Would love that. We should record it as well.
We should
Guys, we're
definitely
gonna
do
have
that.
so much stuff for you. You guys are gonna love it, then hate it, then love it again. Like that's how much you're gonna see it. You're gonna go through phases of
Yeah.
it.
You're putting it out there 'cause it makes us accountable to get it done for them.
It does. It
Mhm.
does. That's almost a theme from the first little bit.
That's it.
You also met my girl for the first
Yes.
time.
Yes.
That was how was
So
that?
so that was interesting because
First
you didn't
impressions?
you didn't tell her
I
that
did
we
it.
were coming,
I did it.
and she was at the front desk, right?
Life is amazing, man.
Yeah.
Cause we were gonna go to there's a gym in if you're not from Canada down here in Ontario. It might be global actually. Fusion
I
Global?
think there's only like 3 gyms in the GTA. It might be just a small chain. I don't know, but that's the
Might
gym I
be
go to. We
yes.
were gonna go there, but
Yeah.
instead we
And it looked
decided
dope. I was excited to go. And then it kind
it's an alright gym. It The ownership turned over a few times, but
Mhm.
what I like is the morning community. Like that's what I like about the
I
gym
think
more
that's
than
like
anything.
pretty like any 5 a.m. club at any gym. It's gonna there's like an archetype of person. You
Mhm.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think you just get more money with like an Equinox. You're gonna get a guy that might work in finance or just like higher further along in his career at the 5 a.m. club. But it's the same mentality of
you know
person.
what? I would disagree. I would
Oh
say
wow.
because I met some guys and girls at the gym in the morning that are successful business owners. Like one of the guy pulled up in a Porsche one morning
Mhm.
and he parked it on the street. So I'm like, I go up to him and I say, because I like cars too, right? So I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
wanted to
Who
kind of get to know.
doesn't?
And I'm like, so you rather park on the street? He's like, yeah, I got to avoid the car dings and the
Yeah, yeah,
scratches and
yeah,
all
yeah.
that, right? Even though it was 5 a.m., there aren't many people in the parking lot. But he went further to tell me that about his business. I didn't really ask about it, but
Yeah,
I guess he's proud, right?
yeah.
But so it was a Porsche 911 parked on the street. He said his truck was in the shop. He doesn't like bringing his car to work
Mhm.
because he owns a waste management company.
Okay.
And he's like, yeah, and I
It's
have a,
always these
but
like
then he
odd
goes,
jobs that have the bread, you know?
he goes, oh, I also have a GT3, but I don't drive it around. I'm like, wow, because
It's
those I don't know how much those are, but I think those are like
100,000?
more.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
because the 911 is like I think 120, 130.
Yeah.
But with the price of cars these days,
They're pretty
it's probably even
inflated, right?
more. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not the biggest car guy. I just know like the aesthetic. So everything is aesthetic. Same thing with like clothing. Same thing with like just how I present myself. Like I like looking clean. I like um showing a certain aesthetic. But with the cars, I feel like I could just do like even if like when this goes crazy and like we got we're doing the most. I think it would still be like something. What's like a like how you feel about the Teslas?
I don't mind Tesla. I'm not a car guy, so I'm not so much of a tech guy. I'm a car guy.
Mm.
I feel like Tesla brings in the technology and
Yeah.
the idea. I mean, they were kind of first to market, I think, maybe
For like the
with
energy. Yeah.
with regards to electric vehicles,
Hmm.
EV. So I think they did it.
Yeah, they did it.
Elon did it big.
Yeah.
But when I talk to some car people, like
Hmm.
real car people, like guys who own dealerships or whatever, they they always say that the car design isn't so great,
Hmm.
but when you bring the whole package together
Together. Right.
and the marketing and all that, I don't think you can beat it in terms of EV.
Yeah.
I may be wrong, but
Yeah.
this is
Probably
not my
some.
specialty.
There's probably some guy out there that's like the Ford Fusion e-bike thing is way better, or SUV is so much better. Leave it to guys to be talking about their girl and then just shift it into cars.
Yeah.
So
Okay, let's go back to that.
yeah.
Okay.
So real quick
So,
before we get into the episode, what first impressions?
oh, she's a sweetheart. I could
Yeah.
tell. And I could tell by the discussions that I've had with you regarding your relationship that things are really good and I'm wishing you all the best, right?
Appreciate it.
But when I saw her face light up when she saw you, I was like, yeah, I know there's something there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's I hope that works out for you
Thanks,
and
man.
I hope I get to meet her more in depth,
Yeah.
get to know
Well,
her.
we'll like plan a dinner. We've been overdue like something like that. Even like getting
Yeah,
Andre
for
and just
sure.
like going out. Um
Yeah, this
just
is the Beyond Reps and Sets family, right?
beyond reps and sets. And with that, I know you got some blind rankings for me.
Mm,
Okay. All right. We're only gonna give you guys one today, and then we're gonna give you some real meat in the
yes.
episode.
So I know you are off the market,
Yes.
but
Oh no, why is he doing it? Trying to set me up? We just had a moment, Adam. What's going on?
okay, look, I'm 10 years your senior,
Yes.
so I haven't been in the game.
Okay. So
And
you're,
I know potentially some of the listeners may be single and they may be
yeah,
wanting to
it's very
find
true.
somebody, right?
Very
So,
true.
top five, rank these,
Okay.
okay, from one to five,
All right.
from best to not so good, or
Okay.
best to worst,
Okay.
places to meet a quality spouse or woman or man, whatever you want to call
So
it.
we're talking about hubby wifey material.
Yeah, yeah,
I think I could only speak
definitely.
to the wifey.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
yeah. So we're like men looking for wife, like where they can possibly run into wifey.
Yeah, well, I think traditionally in the courting
It's
era,
yeah,
right? It's usually the man,
yeah,
but like obviously, times are different,
yeah,
so
yeah.
things might be
Girls
different.
going out there
This
getting
is
what they
why I'm
want.
bringing it up. Okay.
Okay, okay. I like it. I like it. Little nuance,
Yes.
little context. Okay, give it to me.
Okay. So, okay. First one, grocery store.
I used to love a grocery store. Um, didn't get a lot of time because I got into the grocery store game late. I wish I would have really gave it more attention. Ah, man. I think because it's practical. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Like you have to be responsible if you're going to grocery. So someone that's in there, especially the timing of the grocery as well. So if it's not during a peak hour, um, someone who's not there just on the weekend but finds time to work it in on a weekday as well. I think that's up there. I gotta go, but I don't know what else you're gonna say. So
Well,
I'm gonna,
that's the point of it.
yeah, okay. I'm gonna put it up there. I'm put two. Groceries up there.
Okay. Number
Groceries up
two.
there.
All right. Wedding reception.
Oof. I haven't had too much experience going to it. I've been to maybe 2 weddings in my life.
Okay.
So, and most of the time I was like a child. So, um I'm for that reason personally, I don't have too much experience there. So, I'm going to
Well,
put
I
it
mean,
down.
there's dancing,
No, I
there's
know.
alcohol.
I know, but I also feel like because people know that, they might be going there with that intent.
Mhm.
And I think intent is a really good thing
Love is in the air,
for
right?
relationships to last. I feel like personally, it's got to be an organic meet.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And if you're already going there being like, okay, there's gonna be a bunch of people my same similar age, who knows? You never know. I might find it that one. I feel like that might breed like a little bit of too much pressure on that first interaction. So I'm gonna put that like, but you could still definitely find because love is in the air. It's beautiful. You see a great reception. There's like swans in the shape of an ice sculpture. So I'll put it 4. I'll put it
Okay.
4. Not bottom, but not personally my top.
And then we got church.
Oh, you know I'm a church boy. Grew up. Okay. In order for relationships to work, a lot of values have to align,
Mm,
and to have religion be something that you don't have to have a kind of a overarching conversation about, like that could be something that could possibly divide. So I'm not gonna because I have thing at 2. I'm gonna go church number 3 because I think you answer a lot of the questions. So if you do find someone there with the same interest that you're attracted to, let's say someone might not want you to wait for marriage if you find them out in the wild, out in the streets. But if you meet them in church, that's kind of something that might come with the territory. Now, there are definitely people that still might have a problem with that, even in church, because they're maybe not as strict with it, but you're a lot more likely to find someone that will see that as a viable thing as opposed to maybe somewhere else. So I'm gonna put church 3. I think my mom would be not so happy with that one, but I'm gonna put it there.
Mom.
She wanted that number 1.
Okay.
So we got 2 left now.
Got 2 left.
Okay,
The nightclub.
5. In term No, because
That was
you know what I'm
that
saying?
was quick. Yeah, yeah.
It's low because if you want to have a good time, you're like 21, 18, just figuring it out. Don't even know you've changed your major like 2 times. You just got an undergrad underneath your belt. Go crazy, you know what I mean? Still be safe out there, of course, but I see nightclubs as more of an exploration place, not a place where you're gonna build something long lasting.
Okay. So
Yeah,
we only got one more.
I know. What are we left with?
Online.
Yeah, no, I double that. You know why? You know why?
What generation are you again? You're
Millennial. I'm like just got a millennial.
that's a millennial answer for
Yeah,
sure.
because here's the thing. I prefer to meet people out in the person, out in out in the
The public.
wild,
Yeah.
but online did have a play in how me and my girl met.
Okay, yeah. Tell me a little about that.
Yeah, I haven't told
Yeah,
you. Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I'd like to
Oh,
know this.
okay. So I don't know if she's okay. If anyway, I'll tell her. I'll tell her like the bear skeleton, and then I'll deal with after. But it was on TikTok first.
TikTok.
TikTok, I know, and I just got
Jeez.
on there, so I was like, "Yo,
It's
TikTok's
not like Plenty of Fish or one of those.
is that still around?
I don't even know.
I don't know, but there's a lot more. There's like Muslim meats. There's like Christian meat.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever religion. Hey, man, if you
Well, you can
think,
skip the church then if you got one of
bro,
those, right?
that's why I'm okay with
Yeah.
online because I feel
You
like
can weed them out.
you can put on the filters. Oh my God. And I would put apps in there as well because it's the opportunities. All of us, especially after pandemic, are working from home, or the office space idea has really been like deconstructed as of late within the last 5 years. So I think with the increase of like independent work, I mean, look at what we're doing. We're creating a whole entity corporation just out of your clinic here. You know what I mean? So it's like the idea of independence and building things is a lot more, and that by chance, like being an employee of something is also going down, so your time might not be as available just to say, okay, I'm gonna go out. And I also think the emphasis isn't there like it once was to just be like,
Mhm.
oh, I'm gonna go to a bar.
Right.
Um, and that could change based off your area and stuff like that. But just off of my experience, I know a lot of people that are just like, I can talk to a bunch of different people online and then filter out who I don't like and then go. I still like the organic feel because um you get a better sense of people and who they are because you can say one thing but then meet somebody and then be an entirely different thing. So I enjoy like a friend's recommendation. I enjoy going out to events where there's a social aspect baked in. So like meet cues. I did pop up shops when I was just doing business, So definitely not going out there with the intention of like, oh, I'm a chat bear gal, but if it happened, then be open to it. But the thing with me and my girl was it was on TikTok. I posted a little like, I was in the gym, I was pumped up, you know what I'm saying? But
Proper lighting,
yeah,
down
proper
lighting.
downward lighting, you know what I mean? The bulk was hitting, I put on like maybe a pound or something, I was feeling myself. And I put a little edit together, nothing crazy. Um, and then I saw that she liked that video, and I thought she liked it from my physique. She was like, "No, I thought you were." She was like, "No, I thought you were a douche. I thought you were a douchebag." When you saw that,
That's what she said.
but in a she didn't use the word douche, but she was like, "No," I was like, "Okay, you didn't have to say it like that,"
Meathead.
but yeah. But it was more like I saw your smile
Ooh,
because I
she
smiled
got
in the video.
game. She got
Yeah, yeah.
game.
She.
Wow.
So she's like, I like the smile, but we were still strangers. So she followed me off of that, or I think I followed her when I saw her that she liked it because I'm like, oh yeah, she definitely wants me. And then I followed, and then it wasn't until I got in the DMs I was like, oh, this is not as easy as I thought it was. And then she I was like, oh, we should talk because we connected on the fact that she wanted to get into kin. Um, and I had gone into kin. That was off of your recommendation, actually. You played a role in my life more than you know, and you'll kind of see that.
It's a long game, bro.
Yeah,
It's a long game.
this is destiny. But but yeah. So long story short, she kind of ghosted. She didn't kind of. She ghosted me from there after I sent her like, "Yo, let's talk. Here's my number." Um, and I was like, I just chalked up to the game. One thing you got to do that I would recommend, fellas, is the game is the game. Like no one owes you anything. Don't get butthurt if someone that you showed interest in doesn't show that interest back. The game is the game. Not everybody has to like you just because you like them. So she didn't reciprocate in that moment. I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna continue to live my life. And then it. Was at a pop up.
Mm.
Me and my boy, we did this little we flipped wallets. So we got wallets, then we flipped for a little profit, split it 50-50. Nice little business venture. Um, the RFID wallets were going crazy at this time. And the pop up happened to be at the gym that she was
Oh,
at.
okay.
So then,
So
and we both know if we didn't meet each other in person, it would never, because we're not super online like that. We had both never been on dating apps or anything like that. So
now I'd like to hear her story.
yeah. I we've I've learned different things about like what I thought things were and like what I thought was winning it over versus what was actually.
Right.
So I think the main thing I could say to, any guy, especially if you're like just getting out there, is be your authentic self because whether or not you think or you're trying to be somebody else, it's gonna get found out eventually. So the quicker you can get someone to buy
Facts.
into you
Facts.
for who you are, the quicker you're gonna find out whether you're actually compatible. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my last question would be then,
Yes, sir.
is it really a game? Because you talk about the game, but is it really a game?
I say it like, like the game of business, like if someone that's kind of how I use like I guess if you want to use the analogy, like the game of fitness, you know what I mean? Like if someone says they're gonna show up,
The game of life.
the game of life,
Yeah, yeah.
like I kind of look at it like the courting phase is the same thing where if you're going in to get to know someone, that doesn't you're not you're not owed anything from that experience. And I think a lot of people walk into those things with entitlement, like, oh, this person should have already known this. And if there's anything I've learned over my time, it's that you're assuming something, ask a question. You know what I mean, to get clarity on situations. Um, so that's what I mean by the game. It's not like, oh, I'm gonna text her and not reply for an hour. That's a little bit childish. Um, and you got to go through those things to kind of get to a point where you don't need to do those things anymore. But when I'm using the term game, it's just like this is the reality of the situation. In business, in life, in relationships, no one owes you anything. So you go into it with that notion, put your best foot forward, and if it's reciprocated, great, we move forward, we find next steps. And if it's not, then you also just adjust your energy and shift it towards where it's wanted.
Well said. Well said.
That was a good one. Yeah. Um yeah, that was good. I like that one.
Yeah. So you want to do a quick break?
Yeah, let's do a quick break and then we'll get into our main topic.
Main topic.
Do you wanna tell them what we're
Yeah.
I'm
So
excited.
I think it's a common question that I think trainers get asked, um, or people who help people along their fitness journey, is how do you finally get that transformation to a beach body or a bikini body?
Okay.
And what we want to do is dispel some of these myths and misconceptions that people have regarding uh, getting into shape for the summer months,
Love that.
right? Or like a vacation that you have planned, right? A lot of people, they like to look back on pictures and say that they have achieved that aesthetic that they're looking for,
Mhm.
right? So I think we should take a little bit of a dive into that. And I got some questions for you as well.
Okay.
But if we can find some actionable items for people, I think this is a good time to start.
All right. So when we get back, you guys are gonna get a full mapped out actionable items on how to get your bikini body or
Yeah.
beach body.
All right.
All right. Yeah, man. And we're back.
We're back.
Back like we never left. Well, technically we did. You guys don't like we didn't leave. Yeah. Anyways.
So I think first things first, we
Mhm.
should define what beach body or bikini body is. Okay.
Okay.
So so Cliff, what is your idea of that? Um, and I think there may be some misconceptions of what that is. F- First off, I'd like to say that anybody can wear a bikini. There's no judgment here. But what typically people consider to be a bikini body is, I guess, a sculpted, toned, lean, strong-looking physique. At least that's what I see it as.
Mhm. I think
And
that's a pretty good Jeff because if we're going based off of like Western like
norms,
Hollywood
yeah,
norms of like where we like Baywatch and like David Hasselhoff and
right.
My Girl with the Blonde Hair, um
Pamela Anderson,
Pamela, yeah. Like I think that's very much like the archetype. And obviously there's wiggle room depending on where you lie. But I think the general consensus is a toned if you're a guy, six pack, developed upper body, swim trunks, Uh
and I think the
yeah.
term tone gets used a lot. I'd like to
Do you want to like
clarify what
clarify
that
it a little bit
is
more? Okay, so
because um, the term tone comes from tonic. When we look at in the mm, science world, right, or the medical world, when someone has too much tone in a muscle, it's also negative. Or if
oh,
you have
okay.
too little tone,
Oh, I didn't actually know
yeah.
that.
So it's the neural activation or drive to the muscle at
Okay.
rest. So I'll give you an example. Back when you were playing soccer, you probably felt like your calves were always tight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because of a lot of usage. So someone who works their muscles will feel like they're a little tighter in their body. So
So
I think so people look
mhm.
at not feeling flabby, um, feeling a little more, tighter, defined. I think that is basically what the beach body or bikini body is.
Okay. I think that's a great definition. So like staying within a certain body fat percentage and having, let's say, more muscle density
I'd
to
say so, yeah.
accentuate um
The curves.
yeah, curves and musculature
Right.
overall. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So
you know,
wait, I had a question for you real quick. We can do it like real quick before we get in. So is that different from cramping? Or is that like this that's a dehydration thing, right?
that's a little different.
Different. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a
But
complete
someone with high tone, like if you poke their muscles, they will bounce back at you.
okay.
It's just a lot of neural drive to the muscle
More of a
specifically.
CNS thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Didn't want to guess check.
Um, yeah, and I think most it seems like most girls these days,
Hmm.
they want the slim waist
You're being too nice.
with the hips
It's a
and
definite, like, especially with the thing of social media. Now, obviously, we're not speaking to the minority that you know, like there's a big population of people not on social media. But if you're on social media between the ages of like 18, maybe even as young as 16, from what I've seen, 16 to like 35, 38, there is like a strong push for this archetype you're gonna go
yes.
to.
And I think for the guy, right, is what is seen on social media is, the chiseled, ripped, jacked guy
Mhm.
with all the veins popping out.
Vascularity on 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's a misconception there because it's very difficult to get like that. And I think it takes a lot to get into that position and that level of shape.
To say the least, man.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's important. And let's get into some misconceptions that people have with regards to the process of doing it.
Let's get into it.
Because don't you find that people often want to do it with not enough time?
Very highly over simplified time frames. So yeah, the most common one personally,
Yeah, bring the mic
va-
down a little.
vacations, uh, and weddings.
Mhm.
It's like my sister's weddings in 2 months, and it's like,
Yes,
and you're
two
just like,
months.
yeah,
Are
100%.
exactly. That's
And
very misleading, right?
and that's coming from someone outside of the industry that can even see through that. But I think if
Yes.
you're not looking through a critical lens like Andre, then you're just seeing these things and like, oh fuck, oh shoot, like
Oh yeah, hold on. Can we swear on this podcast?
it kind of slowed down. I was like, wait, do we want to monetize this?
Hey, if it comes out naturally, it is what it is.
Okay,
Okay?
okay. We won't push for it. We won't push for it. We want to appeal to everybody.
Yeah, so basically what our producer was saying, Andre, is that, you see a lot of these 3-month transformations coming out and there's there's a lot missing with regards to where that person was starting, their starting point, like we discussed in the last episode,
Just about to say
training
training.
age,
I was just about to
right?
say
Because that first blow of the balloon, okay?
those beginner gains.
Yes, the first blow of the balloon sometimes is the most difficult. Like everything has to line up. Okay. And I'm not talking about just the newbie gains. I'm just saying if you're trying to build muscle, it the first blow of the balloon is difficult. Afterwards, though, you could stop training for a year and within,
Half of
4
that
or
time.
5 months, you can get right back to where you stopped.
I would say there's a half life on it for sure.
Yeah.
Like if you've been consistent for a year, you probably got. I mean, there's obviously context in how hard you're going the other way. Um, it'd probably take you a bit about half as much time to get back to 80% of what you were at that peak point before you had the hiatus.
Yeah.
So
So first misconception is the length in time that it takes you to get to your expected goal.
If you are coming from no training experience at all, or from a position of extremely overweight, so we're talking obese or anything like that, you got to give yourself a year because you are doing a whole 180 from probably the things that led you to that current position, the things that have taken place in your lifestyle, the mental hurdles that you might be dealing with, your relationship with food, your relationship with the gym. You know, we talked about trigger responses episode 1,
Right.
and why you might even have trouble lifting or doing anything active. So giving yourself and the time crunch will only increase anxiety and cortisol levels and a bunch of different other hormone responses that we don't want to be taking place when you're thinking about the initiating stages of your fitness
You're
journey.
going to set yourself up for failure
Yeah.
and you're going to want to quit.
And that's where the new year and new me people who have all this motivation come January 2024, we're very close to this, end up, this is statistically proven. If you look at most gyms within the first month of whatever that boom was. I don't know the exact numbers, but I would venture to say maybe
It's significant.
it's a
It's
significant,
noticeable.
yeah.
It's noticeable.
Maybe we can like uh drop some studies. You could check the numbers for yourself in the link below. But yeah, the numbers I would say above
I don't really
60%.
think that's necessary. You just go to the gym in January,
Yeah,
and
fair
then even
enough.
if you don't go, if you don't return, come back in March and you'll see the
A
difference.
whole different, yeah.
Right?
But the people that stay the same, those 5 a.m. clubs,
Mhm.
they're gonna be there throughout the year.
Speaking of people who stay the same, I think another misconception is that all you have to do is do cardio.
Oh my god. We're gonna be saying this so much
I
because
know.
it's ingrained in society that cardio, like I posted a video on TikTok.
Yeah.
I didn't show you this. And I was like, um, it was a silly thing, like stay standing if you believe cardio equals fat loss. And then the next clip is like me like lying down. And I thought it was funny. I thought it was, it didn't go crazy. Like was average for what I do.
Right.
Um, but there's a guy commented, and he's like, last time I checked, should I pause for the phone?
I don't think so. Let's keep going. Keep it rolling.
So he was like, last time I checked, this is how I pictured him sounding. He's like, last time I checked, boxing, swimming, all get you sweating and get you to burn calories. So I don't know where this guy gets this information from. And then all I responded was, cardio doesn't guarantee fat loss. Being in a caloric deficit does. So just basic understandings of thermodynamics and how that plays. And yes, there are 100 other different variables. Are you going to be more likely to be in a deficit if you're doing a bunch of cardio? But yeah, but it's not just about how much calories you're burning, it's what effect that's having and what you're actually losing. Are you actually building muscle through that? Like, so in terms of fat burning, I would say you're not getting anything there.
No, I think it's important to understand that how do you actually burn fat?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you have to be utilizing fat um, as an energy source, and you lose it through expiration. So as you breathe, you're actually you're breathing out fat cells. It sounds
What
nasty,
a
but
crazy talk. What a crazy way to word it. But yeah, when you look at it,
yeah,
yeah.
sweat, you're a little bit in your urine,
Yeah.
right? Like that's how you expel fat.
I've never thought about that. There was like a TikTok trend that was like, where does fat go?
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
was like, I've never thought about it like that.
You
And I
poop
was
it
like,
out as well.
yeah, very
Yeah.
interesting.
Okay, so I think there's a few things to unpack here. I think it's really important for people to understand this.
Mhm.
First off, people always want to, okay, not everybody, because I think people are starting to learn
Yeah.
more.
The viewer has gotten a lot, or not viewer, the
The
daily
consumer,
consumer,
consumer, yeah,
thank you, has gotten a lot smarter.
yeah, and there is a growing voice that is educating people about this. But
Let's give some shout outs to some other like resources that we can like put a little stamp of approval on in terms of information that we hope to be in the same light of one day.
I think the bodybuilding community, there are some positives that come out of it,
Yeah.
right? Because essentially they're just trying to maintain as much muscle mass and burn as much body fat as possible. Obviously, there are enhancements, PEDs that they use, but that's not the full picture, right? There's a lifestyle involved.
I was saying more to like podcasts that we listen to that we will like brush up on that are in our sort of zeitgeist.
Oh
That
yeah, there's some good podcasts out there. Like I know Mind Pump's been out there for a while now
yeah.
doing their thing. Shout out to Mind Pump.
There's also if you want to go more the science route, Andrew Huberman. Like if you haven't know, get to know. This is a
Mm.
guy that's gonna take it to
He's got a good series with Andy Galpin,
yes,
Dr. Andy Galpin, who is an exercise physiologist out of UC Berkeley, I think. Don't
yeah,
quote me on that,
yeah.
but
Oh, they
um,
will, and they'll be like, they won't listen to the entire episode, and then they'll
yeah.
comment. This guy really think, yeah,
And there's a lot of researchers out there that are doing their best to try to
yeah,
take um, anecdotal ideas or beliefs
Mhm.
and study them to prove it,
yeah,
right? Which is great. There's also Mark Bell's Power
yeah, man.
Project. They're doing their thing as well.
One of the younger guys in this space, in and on YouTube, Jeff Nippard, is also he's
Oh
got
yeah,
some
fellow Canadian as well.
fellow Canadian. He's
Yes.
got a lot of good stuff. I just wanted to take some time to shout out people that are taking the time to research and give out
Yeah.
quality information because I think a lot of time it's easy just to come into a space and talk about what's not going on and being a part of the problem rather than the solution. So
I think we should do eventually a blind ranking of that.
yeah,
I think that would be cool.
guys, let us know. Yeah, well, you guys aren't gonna hear this yet, but yes,
Okay,
yeah,
let's get back to
yes,
what I
jump
was
into it.
saying.
Yep,
So cardio
yeah,
plus slashing calories equals bikini body. False.
false guys,
False.
big, bam.
Um, what's important to know is if you do cardio and slash your calories, you will lose weight. Okay. But you're just going to be a smaller version of yourself with regards to body composition.
So there is no determining factor that you can still be skinny fat. So
Right.
without the introduction of, and I think we're gonna get into this, resistance training, um, there's no real guarantee that what you're losing isn't gonna be muscle density or something else, leaving you now with a just like Adam said, a smaller version of the what you were before.
Yeah. I think what happens is this is our second point, but you often will fall into these yo-yo dieting cycles, right?
Huge,
W-
huge,
If you
huge.
follow a fad diet, you're basically just slashing your calories, you're restricting a food group or whatever, and then you're moving extra and you're doing a lot of cardio. What happens is your body is going to pare muscle down. We have to understand that there's something called the SAID principle, specific adaptations to imposed demands. This was around before I went to undergrad and did my kin degree, doing exercise physiology. We know that you should be utilizing exercise based on the adaptation that you want. So you present a demand to the body, and the body will adapt to that demand.
Mhm.
Okay. So if we're talking about cardio, okay, the energy system that you're using within that activity will determine what type of energy source you're going to be utilizing, right?
Mhm.
So there's creatine phosphokinase, which is the initial energy source of, right? I'm not going to go into the details about it,
Mhm.
but it's like it's
Just to
like doing
spark
a
notes.
sprint,
Mhm.
right? Like a let's say you're a fast 100-meter dash sprinter and you can do it in 10 seconds or under. That's the system you're going to be using. Okay? Then after that 10-second bout, when you're going into the 30-40 second range, like a hockey shift, right? You're going to be using glycolysis, which is uh, at that point you're using carbohydrates. Anything beyond that, you're going to be using
That cr-
oxygen is required.
Now I might be caught my foot in my mouth here. I'm just trying to recant
Krebs
my
cycle?
crab. Is that
Yeah, the
crab?
Krebs cycle. Okay.
My
So,
grade 12 biology teacher
yeah.
would be so happy right now.
Now, in that energy system, you are actually burning more fat.
Okay.
Okay. So you ever go to the gym and you hop on the cardio machine, they're like, if you work at this intensity with your heart rate at this point, you're going to be burning fat.
Mm.
So this is the message. This has been the messaging for a long time from the fitness industry. You got to be on the machine working at a moderate to low intensity to burn fat. That is true. Okay. But when you are utilizing fat as your main source of energy, your body's going to want to keep it around.
Oh, it's because that's the main resource that the body has
Right.
become adept to.
So that becomes the adaptation, right? You adapt
Mhm.
by bringing muscle down. Your body will pare muscle down because it's not efficient.
Mm.
Look at like a marathon runner, right?
Yeah, the
Those
physique.
canyons are fast,
Yeah.
but they've adapted so much that they're like on average like 5'7", 110 pounds.
Yeah, it's insane. And when you look at them, like it's like, oh, they're skin and bone, but there's probably like some dense muscle. I would assume with that.
I don't know. Like I
It
don't
would be
really know.
interesting
I
to.
think genetically they are blessed with
Yeah.
the ability to adapt in a certain way that's not like the average person cannot
Yeah.
facilitate those adaptations.
I would say, uh, and we don't have to get into a case study right now, but I would say that the more determining factors would be their aerobic
Mhm.
health. So like how well they're
Aerobic
diffusing,
capacity.
yeah, how well they're diffusing oxygen over and taking out carbon dioxide, and then also um their altitude and how that affects their training.
Oh, well, their will. They're just
Yeah,
willpower to
yeah,
just get through it.
yeah.
It's funny. I saw this video. They had this like big treadmill contraption and
Mm.
they were putting it on the
I
speed.
seen that.
Do you see
I
that?
seen that, and it's like regular. It was regular, regular Joe Schmoes
Yeah.
that were trying to keep
Trying to keep that
keep a.
pace.
Yeah, it's
And they
keep
would
up Chopra. Is that how you pronounce it?
I don't know who I can't remember, but they're trying to keep the pace of the
The guy who
world.
set the 2 hour. Yeah, it's
Yes.
keep. I'm butchering the name, but
We'll put it on the I think we should probably
put a picture up at
yeah,
least. Yeah,
at least.
give us his
But it's
flowers.
kind of funny because you got these guys, they're like sprinting and within like 2 minutes they're
Yeah,
like falling off the
yeah.
treadmill.
Check it out, guys. It's actually
It's
really
kind of funny.
interesting, and I think to bring it back to what we're talking about, it helps give you real perspective on
Yeah,
how crazy these genetic phenoms are.
exactly.
These guys got the best training. These guys got the best facilities, and even then, it would still be really challenging for the average person to maintain. It gives you a lot of for me. It gives me a lot of respect and admiration for
Yeah.
what these some of these athletes are able to accomplish.
So we defined bikini and beach body. Okay.
Yes.
Do you think the marathon runners have that?
I would not put the marathon. So it's for context is a great point. Like that would not be. I would say there'd be a lot more body fat actually on someone because I think someone looks at like Michael B. Jordan is like, oh, that's like 1% body fat, from Creed, and he's probably more in around like 7 to 10%. Like to actually be sub 10%
Yeah,
is a
but if you look at his training,
yeah.
I'm not sure the level of cardio that he did because a lot of people are still in the mindset that you should be doing cardio with your strength training. But I'm going to get to a study that
Kind of counted.
proves that wrong.
Lovely.
Okay?
Do you want to jump into the yo-yo dieting more, or you want to just quick step into that?
I think I think we should post this study for people to take a look at it, but let's see here. So it was a study done by Lopez P. It was actually a systematic review and meta-analysis.
Mm.
But basically, it was looking at the effectiveness of aerobic training versus strength training versus aerobic and strength. And the recommendation based on that systematic review is that um, if you are looking mainly at fat loss with while maintaining as much muscle as possible, strength training alone trumps.
Love that. Love that.
So we'll get to
Yeah,
a
leave that one.
misconception later about lifting.
Oh, look at that guy. He's got a little teaser from the man
Yeah.
himself.
So yeah, so I think we should talk
And on the yo-yo,
yo-yo dieting
I
and what that does to you,
it,
because this adaptation we're talking about, this basically describes what will happen to you when you yo-yo diet.
and think about it. We just went through one of the major misconceptions, which is cardio burns fat. So now you pair that with a diet that is inconsistent, changing, where you're probably not even getting adequate amount of calories to even just go through day to day. So if you've ever like I see this on a day to day, I know Adam sees this and has to combat this on a day to day with like the trend of the time. So I believe like just when I started, keto was just coming out of its um um
Craze or fad.
craze,
Yeah.
and then it kind of went to like juice cleanse. There's carnivore diets, um, a bunch of different ones, and a bunch of ones that are probably out right now that I'm not aware of. But the thing with these things that they're all getting at are different ways. Intermittent fasting, like these can be great tools in phases of a bigger arching program that gets you to a sustainable point. Um, but as an answer that you're going to do for the rest of your life, it is too extreme of an up and down, thus the term yo-yo, for the body to undergo. And you're not going to be able to see consistent. If we're looking at a chart of your progress, we won't be able to map that on a scale of upward trajectory, which is what we'd want. Same thing as if we were trying to like map success of a business, we want an upward trajectory of like, starting at a certain point, but then over time, month to month, going here. There's nothing worse. The worst business to be a part of is, and this happens sometimes, is like 1 month here good, 1 month not down here, 1 month here, and the trends, it's more of a scatter plot than an actual trend.
Yeah. I think the issue is that most of these diets are what they all have in common is that it will restrict calories. And to lose weight in general, you will have to restrict calories.
They're meeting the base requirement
Yeah.
without any of the context.
Yeah. So what happens is you slash your calories, you do a bunch of cardio, you may or may not be doing strength training or not doing it properly,
Mhm.
and your metabolism needs to adjust. Okay. When they've done studies, these hunter gatherer studies, like current hunter and gatherer tribes that are still around doing their thing, when they test their metabolism, they're only burning maybe a couple of hundred more than the average desk worker.
When I read that, that blew my mind.
It's
Even
crazy.
even at my level of understanding, because a lot of the for me personally, I was like, oh, we're living a sedentary lifestyle. A lot of our stuff, we don't have to hunt and gather our food as much. So we're not by proxy, we're not on our feet as long. So I was always under the impression that that was also a major contributing, but like to see those numbers was staggering.
Yeah, so what does that tell you? As humans, we can adapt based on the food that we have available to us.
Guys, if you don't take anything else, the body is a beautiful machine, and we just got to do the things to allow our body to naturally function the way it wants.
Now, I don't know what their body compositions are, right? But I'm assuming that they probably don't have the muscle or the look that you guys are striving for. But if you slash your calories and you do a bunch of cardio, your body's just going to adapt to that. So you may not even be losing the weight that you expect to lose. So how do we change that? That's the question.
So I think a program, an idea of how you're gonna map and phase in and out would be number one, and then also the time frame that you're giving yourself. You should allow for the space for you to understand that there's gonna be some growing pains in the beginning, because not only are you doing something counterintuitive to what you're used to, which is gonna be hard. I don't want to sugarcoat things, especially if it's something you haven't been doing for majority of your life,
It
or you just
doesn't have to feel impossible though,
and
which
the
is
the
important to
main
know that.
thing is just to get over that like month period, that initial phase, and you touched on that earlier.
But what about when you get to a point where your body is adapting to the calorie restriction that you have placed on yourself, right? At
S-
that point, you got to know how to get out of it
Yeah.
because you have to maintain faster metabolism, and that's the key.
Mm.
That's the key, basically, to living in our society
Yep.
where there's an abundance of food
Yep.
and you have really addictive foods too,
Mhm.
right?
Highly palatable, highly um sugary, um addictive, really.
Yeah.
You know.
So I think what you mentioned is important, like phasing your diet, so your nutrition. The training should basically be the same. I think you can't be expecting a personal record with your lifting. Now, in some
Ex-
cases, if you are grossly overweight and your goal is to come down by like 40, 50 pounds,
Mhm.
you could potentially be gaining strength as you go, especially if you're a novice weightlifter. You're utilizing the energy stored in your fat cells, right?
So I think using, if you are going to be doing cardio, um because it is an aspect of fitness that has great implications for your heart health and just all um involuntary blood circulation, things that we do need to survive. So I don't want to, my goal here is not to demonize these things, it's also just to
Put it in
both
perspective,
put it in perspective and
right?
give a little bit of context. So if you are someone who is more on the heavier side and is looking to lose that 40, 50, maybe even more, walking can be a great intro to that, to just get some more
Oh, I
activity.
love walking for that. I
Walking
love
is
walking
a
because
great
it's,
movement.
do you know why I like walking?
Talk to me.
Walking is great because we generally all know how to do it.
Yeah, you
And
don't need a coach.
yeah,
You won't need have us banging down your door, you know what I mean,
exactly.
to tell you, pronate or
Running
a
running on the other hand
little bit different.
can be difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, I when it comes to cardio, if you have enough time, if you have enough time, okay, in the beginning, let's say you have 100 pounds to lose. Yeah, I know this is not the topic, right?
Yeah.
The cardio will provide some type of strength gains because
100%.
you're using your muscles in ways you probably haven't. You're carrying some
And it's
excessive
excessive
weight,
load. Yeah.
but then it comes a point where the cardio is just going to create an adaptation where you're going to lose muscle mass. And we don't want that, right? So
We want
remember,
as much as a consistent flow of um muscle growth and strength.
exactly. So remember, the first misconception is that it doesn't take long to get into that bikini body that you want. Okay, that's the first misconception. So we should be making sure,
Or
based on
or it are you saying it doesn't or it does?
the misconception is that it
Oh, that it
doesn't
doesn't. Fair
take
enough.
that much time.
Yeah, you can do it in like a month or 30 days.
Right. So set realistic expectations and
100%.
goals and then have enough time,
Yep.
right?
Yep. So right now, it would be a great time to start to think about, um if you aren't already, if this is something that you want aesthetically or just from a health perspective. I mean, it doesn't have to be 40, 50 if you're not in a place where health wise it would have a huge impact on you, but maybe you just want to be able to run around with the kids a little bit more, or you just want to, I will always talk about unapologetically about the impacts that physical activity can have, just because that's my passion. That's where I lie, and I think we align with that in terms of how resistance training can impact your life. It's kind of like the whole thesis of our podcast and what we're doing here. But um even if the goal is just to improve the quality of life, like, think about how you can implement little things like walking, if you don't have a membership, um getting some resistance training and getting some dumbbells and starting with the basics.
Right. So having enough time
Time.
first off,
Mhm,
Second, figure out your what your where your metabolism is right
mhm,
now based on the activity you're doing,
mhm,
and you could utilize formulas to figure out where you should set your calories at.
mhm.
I really recommend, if you're trying to transform your body, to track your calories. I know a lot of people are anti tracking.
I will give an alternative just because I've worked with a lot of girls, and it tends to be girls that don't want to look at the numbers too much, art don't have the best relationship with the scale. Um, and for them, my middle ground is like giving them a protein goal because I know that if they're doing that along with some well balanced meals, then and then you're just taking pictures of food, then I can kind of have a somewhat idea, and then we can either reduce portion or increase based off of that, you know. So food journal is another way, just write down the things that you're eating on a day to day. And then if you're noticing, like, I'll use a pretty obvious example, like if you had, two whole pizzas, a shake, and then like you wash that down with some root beer, and that was your calories for the day. Then you can kind of look and be like, oh, is this a picture of a whole balanced meal that I should probably be having? How much protein am I having from this meal? And I think that's a nice way. Eventually, if you do want to get serious and get into like body fat, you are gonna have to go to that length. But that is a great way to start, to get a better picture of where things might be going awry, because it could just be something as simple as the amount of caffeine. Like I did that with a client recently, and we are now 15 pounds down just by taking out sodas. So he was someone that, um, we're actually moving him into a different phase of his training now, and upping his protein a little bit more because I want to make sure that he's still retaining muscle because he's 200 plus right now. Um, but yeah, it was the sugary drinks that was his crux for
I
him.
think if you have enough time for the transformation, you can start pretty basic by just making changes. Like, you don't need to know exactly where your calorie expenditure is at this point.
Mhm.
But I think, like you said, upping your protein, for one, figuring out basically what your protein intake is, and just doing that first, right?
It's a that
But when it gets closer, when you're at, let's say you started 6 to 8 months out and you're at that 3 month mark, I think it may be worth it
to
to
go a little bit
start.
more deeper.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Just because uh, you're going to be fine tuning what you're eating. It's going to be a little harder to lose weight at that point or to burn fat, especially because we're trying to maintain muscle mass while burning body fat. So when you're playing that dance, it's really, you have to fine tune things, right?
I would say if you don't have any constraints on time and you're just like, you know, you're giving yourself like 2 years.
I
It
love
just
that.
it all depends on what you can manage and what you're willing to facilitate. I don't think there's a world where if you're trying to be more intentional with it, where calorie tracking won't be beneficial.
Of
So
course.
that's kind of how I'd frame it. You can do it with food journaling and stuff like that. It's just gonna take a lot longer because you're playing a lot of trial and error. And if you're okay with that, which I know a lot of people aren't, people I feel like already are like, damn, I gotta take a year, you know what I mean, to get just for ready for next year's summer, um, is an eye opening thing for them. So whatever it might look at from the outside, like, oh, I gotta do, because anytime you talk about this, it's like, I gotta do this, and it takes 5 minutes. It takes 10, maybe 15 minutes to get all this information down. The fun part is getting in there in the gym, um, and figuring it out for yourself, and then looking at how that worked for you, and how in depth you go with that. I think you can kind of find that middle ground for you, what your level is and what you can manage.
And I think we're touching on the beginner at this point,
Yeah.
but let's talk about the person who wants to be within striking distance all the time. And this is, I think, where I think it's really a matter of your preference and the lifestyle that you want to lead. But I think a healthy lifestyle is being in striking distance. So 3 weeks out. Okay.
It's a great
I've
point.
heard this from, I think his name was Ben Bruno. He's a celebrity trainer. I think he's out of New York.
Okay.
And he's trained a bunch of people.
Like in Hollywood.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I think he's good friends. I'm thinking of somebody else.
I thought you said
Disregards
I
it, but
thought you were about to just name drop some people
I
right
was
now.
gonna name drop some celebrities, but
Right.
there's no point in
Okay.
that. But what he describes is he likes to have his actors and actors within striking distance, so 3 weeks out. So in 3 weeks' time, they can be
Show
10%
ready.
or
Yeah.
lower than 10%
Yeah.
body fat.
That's a similar thing with bodybuilding as well. They're kind of always phasing in and out of their programs, and then staying within that 3 to 6 week window relative to their show day.
And I think fighters like MMA
Fighters is
fighters and
another great.
boxers
Yeah,
should be also doing the same thing, or else it's just too
they are.
hard
Yeah.
to change your body that quickly
Yeah.
if you're not. So if you're the ideal way to approach this is, for one, you're gonna have to, okay, let's take it back. Okay, we have somebody, and this would be the majority of my clients that I work with. They are, for the most part, women, but I do have some men that have a difficult time with their body weight, and they've been yo-yo dieting for the past year or two, and or it could be even longer than that. So they slash their calories, they do a bunch of cardio, they lose a bunch of weight, not specific weight to body fat, but just weight in general. Their metabolism slows down dramatically, and then they can't restrict their calories anymore, or they can't
Oh,
succeed with this
yes.
lifestyle. It's not
Hmm.
sustainable. So then what happens is they go back to their old lifestyle,
Hmm.
right?
So
Because
you just forget it. Like I'm never gonna be Jennifer Lopez or whatever idea.
I think it's just because it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
So then what happens is they revert back, they gain a bunch of weight.
Yeah.
Now the weight they gain is fat, it's not muscle mass, right? So they have a very slow metabolism. They lost a bunch of muscle that they had originally. Then they gained a bunch of weight that's not muscle. And then they go and do it again,
Yeah. So it's almost like
compounding, right?
compounding, uh, not only bad habits, but also a real poor frame to build on. Yeah.
Exactly. So if we have someone like that,
Or foundation. I think foundation is a better word because your
yeah,
skeletal frame doesn't change, but
right.
yeah,
So
attachment.
we have to now correct the foundation,
Mm.
which is their metabolism, because once again, our bodies just adapt, our metabolism just adapts. So we do something that in the industry is reverse dieting. So we
Break
get
that
them.
down for the
Okay,
people.
so when you're dieting, you're cutting calories, right, as you go to try to lose weight.
Yeah. Let's use a different word than dieting. I feel like diet.
Um,
Let's change the narrative. And just use a term like
I think that's a term. I think
yeah, I was trying to do something there.
it's a term. Okay. At the end of the day,
Adam's looking at me like, bro, what are you yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. So yeah, so dieting. So we're taking a look from the dieting perspective and go for it.
yeah,
I think we should pause for the phone.
yeah. Do you hear the phone?
No?
Okay. All right. Well, keep it rolling.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're at a point now where the person has lost a bunch of weight, or sorry, no, they've gained a bunch of weight back. Their metabolism is shot. When I say shot is um if if they eat more than, let's say, 1,500 calories, they're going to gain weight. And
Because the body is no longer efficient at recognizing that as unwanted weight, and it will conserve it in.
it's like a set point.
Yeah.
It's like a set point. That's a term that has been used a lot in the industry. So you have a set point where your maintenance calories, so the amount of calories you can consume
To
without gaining or losing weight
Mhm.
is very low. Okay. Unfortunately, they go on vacation or you have like a Christmas holiday or whatever, and you're eating excess calories, all of a sudden you're gaining weight, right? Because your maintenance is too low.
And if you've ever done this process for yourself, speaking to some people that have already dipped their toe in the water, once you're in that position, it is a real frustrating place to be in because there isn't a lot of wiggle room at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if we have that person, we are now having to reverse diet, which is gradually bump their calories up while resistance training. Okay. And I can stop right here and we can go into another misconception of how much people should be lifting in terms of weight resistance. Doing a body pump class is not the stimulus that you want to provide to your body or to send to your body to it's not the demand that will provide that stimulus of muscle growth because you're doing basically cardio with weights.
Think of it as that's not going to be enough of a action to elicit a strong adaptation, which is what we want in terms of muscle being built. If anything, it's going to be something that might even have the counter effect of just like reinforcing the yo-yo dieting and not actually targeting what we want.
Exactly.
Yep.
So this is often what we're dealing with, right? And people are like, I've never eaten this much. I've never had this much protein. Um, it's almost like their body can't tolerate it, right? So we have to get them doing resistance training while eating more gradually until we get to a point where they can't physically eat more and we're at a good amount of calories that we can now start bringing them into. We've restored their metabolism. Now we could enter a fat loss phase.
And that's why it's important to understand the time frame that is the number one misconception because if you've been yo-yo dieting, let's say 10 years and that's been your life for up and down, you've had a kid in between that and your time is even more reduced to give to this, which means you have less energy, you're trying to balance work, all these sort of things. We don't want to add more stress to that already stressful environment to now give this as another thing to be a headache in your life. So understanding that it's going to take time if that's where you're at to get you back to a place where your body is functioning and actually um, burning the fat or the excess fat, now actually getting you to a place where your um, muscle is taking in and absorbing all the protein that we're having and then building muscle. And that's why the weight or the scale isn't a real good because you might see some fluctuation the other way once we start bumping up those calories. But that's a natural thing. It might even be good. And we might even realize that, what you conceive as 30 pounds loss versus body recomp, which is not just looking at it as general weight loss, but actually how much muscle we're putting onto our frame. Um, you might see that that number might be not as much weight that you need to lose or fat that you need to lose because we're now thinking and shifting and it's a little bit of a paradigm shift to we're trying to build muscle to get the physique that we desire.
Exactly. That was actually another misconception that we had on the list,
Oh, look at that, boy.
right? Is um, using weight as the main metric
Of success.
during this process, weight on the scale. So I think that's not important, especially in the beginning phases,
Oh,
like
for
you just
sure.
mentioned, when we're trying to restore metabolism and we're doing it in a way where you're feeding your muscles and you're providing the stimulus to your muscles. Often we don't see the scale change, or if it changes, it goes down. Sometimes it goes up actually in the beginning
Most of the
because
times.
most
Most
of
of
the
the
time
times.
it's gonna go up in the beginning.
Most of the times. Because we're getting you to eat the amount of protein that you need. And even then, it's a thing where it's like, damn, I'm struggling to even get 30 grams per meal. And if that's the place we're in, then we have like a an absorption and maybe even a fiber issue with like how we're pairing our protein. You know what I mean? Which is gonna take time to reconstruct. So we want to be kind to the body throughout that process, and I think that's a very key thing. And the psychological battle that might stem from you seeing the scale and what that's gonna force you to do,
It's not even worth it in the
it's not
beginning.
worth it.
I would actually, I have a client right now that I do not have her weigh herself.
Yeah. I can't lie. I do it regularly on a weekly basis, but all of my clients, especially now, I've shifted the perspective to make sure that they understand the relationship with the scale. So we're using it more as like a checkpoint to be like, okay, we're probably still in this phase of our training where we're still building up a little bit more. And then we still use it there along with measurements, body fat, pictures to see if the recomposition is going well so that we can ease the mind.
And I think that's the key thing is utilizing multiple frames of reference. Okay.
To gauge success.
Yeah, like measurements, like you said, body measurements, because often the scale doesn't move, but the measurements start to
Oh
decrease.
yeah. Yeah.
And so I have one client who worked with me for about
We should wrap up soon too. It's 1 o'clock. Let's do like another
yeah, we're gonna wrap it up
wrap it up.
right
Oh,
now.
we're doing good.
Yeah.
This is good.
I have one client who was working with me for about 6 months, and the scale moved down maybe 7 pounds, but her entire aesthetic changed
Oh,
to the
love
point
that.
where like people would see her, they're like, oh my gosh, you lost like 40, 50 pounds.
The conception, man. That's a huge it's the scale can be a good metric. More times the way it's being used by 90% of people is very toxic, it's a very unhealthy relationship.
It
So
is.
using it in tandem, is that the word?
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
with
In
other
conjunction.
in conjunction with other methods to gauge success is the best way
Yeah.
if you are going to use
So
the
let's
scale.
talk about some of these measurements. I say strength
Yep.
is key. So if your
Yeah.
strength is going up,
So your
then you're good.
lifts, you're getting stronger. You started at 135. You're incrementally putting 2.5 to 5 pounds per week. Um, and it doesn't have to be that week to week basis. It could be over a month, two
Yeah.
month, 3 months.
Could even be range of motion in your movements.
Yeah.
Could be a number of repetitions going up. The
Yep.
volume is increasing.
Whatever sort of metric that you want to
Yep.
use.
And then body measurements, like we just discussed, and also
We got ours coming up soon.
yes,
Yeah.
and pictures.
Huge.
Pictures are important.
I might put that number one if we do a blind ranking.
Maybe. Well, we'll see. Let's get to
Yeah.
that. We'll do one of those eventually.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So having proper programming in terms of resistance training is important. Making sure you're lifting the right amount of resistance for your level of training, as well as uh, to elicit that adaptation, right?
Mhm.
Um, yeah. I think in summary,
Yeah, yeah, those are all the
yeah,
three
there's
big
three
ones.
phases I would say. Start with restoring that metabolism, building that metabolism up by eating more and resistance training. Okay. Phase two would be a fat loss phase, right? Once that metabolism is roaring, now we can start to scale back on some of the calories, right? After we've built up your calorie maintenance, scaling back, making sure that you're not going too fast into a too far into a deficit for too long, and then potentially phasing in and out of a maintenance. So phase three would be then trying to get to back to a maintenance level. So once you've moved past the deficit and you've lost the weight that the fat that you've wanted to lose and you're looking good in your bikini, whatever, then um, trying to reverse out slightly to get back to a higher maintenance so that you don't adapt to a lower calorie intake. And folks, the hardest thing is sustaining your achievement,
Mhm.
right? And I
Very
think that's the
difficult.
important thing, integrating back into society. And, I think we should eventually talk about some rules to have in place
100%.
to create that stability with regards to your weight and your body composition.
Mhm.
But
Nothing better than still being able to live your life and still keep health as a priority. Like I
exactly.
like as a fitness professional, I hang my hat on that ability, and I one of the major messages. There's a lot of messages I want to come from this podcast, but that is definitely a key one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I
yeah,
think that was pretty good.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I had some things that I wanted to jump on with that, but I forgot. So those I couldn't have said it better. You now have those in your wheelhouse. Use those tools, guys, and let us know. Let us know if these tips are helpful. If there's anything that we maybe tangent in on today that you want us to go a little bit more in depth on, let us know in the comments below. We are here to help. Um, we will have our socials up in the link below. We'll have it on the graphics. Check out the videos as well. And for our audio listens, we appreciate you for tuning in. This has been Beyond Reps and Sets podcast.